Hello and welcome to the latest from Heart Standard. My name is Joel Sked and I'm joined by Craig Cairns. How's it going, Craig?
Very well, Joel. How are you today?
Yeah, I was fine, not stressing the slightest, and then obviously the last hour or so has been a bit mad with the breaking news that came out today of investment or talks of investment in Heart of Midlothian Football Club. I will just bring the story up. So basically, Tony Bloom, the Brighton owner, I think he's a chairman as well. Him and his company Star Lizard are in talks with Hearts over possible investment, significant investment. It could be worth up to £10 million for Hearts. It's still the club not saying much, so the specific details are not hugely firm, but it's certainly been in the background for a while. I know there'll be a few Hearts fans who will be aware that these suggestions of Tony Bloom and possible investment have been kicking around for a while. I would led to believe that they carried out, his company Star Lizards carried out an external review on Hearts during the summer, kind of looking back at the season, how they performed, and also just the club in general. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, though, I do have a sponsor to read out, and I usually save these. Oh, here we go, if I can find it. Yes. Good Vibes Giveaways are proud to sponsor Hearts Standard and offer fantastic prizes to fans of the club. Prizes change weekly and include tech and gadgets, days out, weekends away, tax-free cash, and even Oasis tickets. I know how much of a nightmare it is to get those. Get your tickets now at www.goodvibesgiveaways.com and enter for your chance to spread the good vibes. I'll pop all that in the description box below as well. But yes, they are our new sponsorship going forward. The script is a lot easier than some of the other ones I've had to muddle through in the past. But Craig, just off the back of the breaking news, what's your first instinct, first takeaways?
Well, I'm at the moment reading the Ian Graham's book that came out recently called How to Win the Premier League. And while it doesn't focus on Brighton, it has a mention for them and Brentford. The book's mostly about, I can't remember the guy's name's company off the top of my head now that I'm on the spot, but he basically, Spurs and Liverpool used them. He worked for both of them. And that's basically what the book's about, mainly how the data helped with the signings. And as I say,
was this Matthew Benham?
No. This is a book that just came out in the last month or so, I think. Ian Graham's his name. Like I say, he worked for, okay. I can't remember what his company was, but his company got involved with Tottenham. And he was working there for a bit. And then then he moved to Liverpool, and his company were also involved with Liverpool. And he just talks about how there's some of the signings where it talks about specifically recruitment. There's other bits where they talk about, I guess, a bit more technical in terms of numbers. There's a lot more talk about like percentages and on-ball value, possession value, and all that kind of stuff. And it gets a lot of that just washes over me when it's just like number after number. But earlier in the book, it is quite interesting when they talk about how data helped to revolutionise the recruitment, and that was a big part of Liverpool's success and Tottenham's relative success. But they don't win things, so they still sort of came up short. But this, as I said, Brighton's given a sort of passing mention in it, and that's what a lot of, from the little that I've just read from yours and Barry Anderson's pieces on it, it does seem to be with a focus on recruitment and using their methods for recruitment. And Brighton is almost the gold standard of it, certainly in England, but a good argument for it across all European clubs as well. The way they've managed to identify and scout talent, bring them over, and then sell them on for crazy fees. So yeah, in that sense, it's quite exciting. But that was kind of like my first thought on it, given just like where my head's been in that book recently. But obviously, that's getting well ahead of ourselves. It's still very much a sort of idea and then putting out the feelers. There's nothing sort of concrete in this yet, is there?
No, so I think there's still ways to go before anything's firmed up, and obviously with Foundational Hearts being majority shareholders, I think it takes. I think it's for like such a decision to be made. I think it needs to be ratified by 90% of the. However, I think it's so just say roughly 8,000 members that for that to go through. So yeah, I think there's obviously still steps to get to there, but I do just taking the pulse of fans on social media who've been getting in touch or mates seems to be pretty positive. I mean, you look at Graham says here could be massive for Hearts. We get that investment and recognise Tony Bloom's name, so hopefully it'll be a good thing. And you look at Tony Bloom and the track record that Brighton have. They have, I think this is their 8th season in the Premier League. They qualified for Europe for the first time. They were in Europe for the first time last season. The transformation of the club has been enormous. Their scouting is one of the best around, unearthing gems from all across the world, and the players who've moved on. Moises Caicedo, who used to be
he's kind of like he's the example that stands out, isn't he, for how much they kind of sold him for in there. And that was when Chelsea were going nuts, and was it like 120 million or something they ended up paying?
Yeah, he played with Lauren Shankland at the Belgian
Beerschot or whatever it was.
Beerschot. I think he was on loan there. And I remember Shankland being on open goal, and he was like, basically did not see anything in him to become a £120 million player. But they obviously don't know all of him. Alexis McAllister has gone on to Liverpool as well. But yeah, they're all always had interest in recruitment and just seem to be a very progressive, upwardly kind of mobile club, which is encouraging. And I just think fans, they'll just see talk of investment. They'll see overhaul of recruitment. They'll look just kind of surface level look at what Brighton have done. And I think naturally people will get excited by it. I think they'll, at the kind of possibility of just completely maybe revolutionising how Hearts do recruitment. I mean, the recruitment over the last... certainly since 2020 has been pretty consistent. I mean, it's with recruitment, you're not going to get them all right, but it's been pretty solid in providing continuity and having a good base to qualify for Europe 3 times in a row and be competitive at the top of the league consistently. So it's done that. I think the next step was always need to sell players, need to be able to bring players in and do that player trading to increase revenue, etc. And then you can invest more in, etc., and help build from there. But having got to this position, like it's always a position of Hearts, the aim is to become consistent. The aim should be, at the moment, be consistently third place, put some distance between ourselves and Aberdeen and Hibs. That doesn't look likely this season because of the struggles, but then it was always the case, like, how do you bridge that gap to Celtic and Rangers? And it might take this for any chance of that to become a reality, to not only the investment, but the knowledge that's there, the knowledge that they've picked up from obviously the company that they are. Star Lizard, for people who are unaware, are data specialists. According to the website, we analyse huge volumes of data in real time to produce agile and adaptable models. These drive decisions across our business. The problems we solve are complex and require continuous iterations to ensure we remain ahead of the field. We use information on every aspect of a sporting fixture to provide an unparalleled view of what's happening on and off the pitch. So you've got that and the potential investment. It might take that for, I'm not saying for Hearts to challenge Old Firm, but to bridge that gap. Now, yes, I am probably getting ahead of myself, but that's natural in situations such as these. Alexander Taylor says, this is a mental opportunity. Sorry, that's my doorbell going. I'm not going to get it though. We must go for this. The benefits to the club will be enormous. So we'll obviously find out more and more in the coming days and weeks around this. I think a key point to say is it's not a case of, unlike other kind of deals within Scotland, that Hearts will become affiliated with Brighton. That's not the case. There'll be, it's not like Brighton are going to be so Hearts are going to be a feeder club for Brighton. If that was the case, I'd probably be against it. I just don't like Hearts should be a feeder club for anyone. I don't like the way how football's kind of gone in that direction. Hearts will very much be standalone and just benefit from the knowledge and the expertise of Tony Bloom and his company, and what they've learned elsewhere, whether it's the Belgian club or their or at Brighton. So yeah, I think early, the more we find out, the better kind of view we'll have. But early, my early view is largely positive.
Yeah, I think I don't think the £10 million figure is really that relevant. I don't think that's for me anyway. I don't think that's the exciting part about it. I don't think it would mean that we would just start chucking transfer fees about or increasing the wages overnight. I mean, that's not that's not what that means. The more exciting part of it for me is Hearts becoming like the Brighton of the Premiership in terms of how they scout, how they recruit, and how they sell on players.
Yeah.
That if we could get some sort of model like that in that works for us, then yeah, that sounds exciting to me. And yeah, using the knowledge that company brings, because I think sometimes you can just get pound signs in your eyes from seeing and I think the Hibs one shows. I know it's very different. You've just said it's very different, but there was big figures getting chucked about with the Hibs one, and it's not the case that they just get all that poured into the playing squad or even into the playing infrastructure. It just doesn't really work like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good example of the way maybe it wasn't communicated all that well originally with Hibs. I think this is the big one, and I kind of come on to it with Kev's question here. And I just asked, but will the FOH agree to this? I think a big thing for this, I was speaking to someone earlier on, and it was, big thing is how it's communicated. And I think if it comes out and basically it's explained, this is what we want to do, this is why we want to do it, this is how Hearts will benefit, this is how we benefit. If it's clear, there's a lot of clarity to it, then Hearts fans, as long as there's a lot of positives there, Hearts fans will go for it. And it's obviously up to the FOH kind of pledgers and everyone to decide on it. And as long as it's made clear that this is going to benefit Hearts and why, I don't see any reason for it not to go through. It's not as if it's the FOH board are going to decide. It's pledgers, it's those who pledge, or the club's owners who have to decide that. And as Ian Manson says, so as long as FOH remain the major shareholders, which is obviously a really important aspect of it. But yeah, it's interesting, it's intriguing, it's exciting.
Yeah, I think that is a key thing about staying majority shareholders. Do you think that, and we're still in relatively new territory when it comes to the fan ownership, but do you think any kind of deal would have to have something in it that protects that there's no future encroachment to try and become the major? Is there anything already in place?
There's already in place. It's about ownership. It's about so there's what are the different things. It's regarding the club's ownership, regarding any sale of Tynecastle, any change to club colour or crest. Like there's key things that are protected. There are key things that are protected. So, which is the main thing. But if you look at I just look at the potential future of Hearts, and if you can, football, it's difficult, and investment is, especially within Scotland, where there's no big TV deals. It's, if you can get into Europe, what Hearts have done, that's massive. But the potential to just try and completely revolutionise the the recruitment side of things, because that's where you can make some serious money. Aberdeen have done it. Hearts have just not done it nearly as well. If we can do that, then I think it'll make the club more robust. But like we said, it's very early days. Well, this has been ongoing in the background for a while. As some fans may be aware, it's kind of out and open, and it'll be interesting to see how it progresses. We'll certainly look into it and look at what Tony Bloom has done at Brighton and the Belgian club, and we'll speak to people and get a better idea of what maybe Hearts fans can expect. But I'm sure that will come in the coming days and weeks. We will move on to talk about the game at the weekend. Celtic 2, Heart of Midlothian 0. I thought it was, in the context of the season so far, a decent display, but it is a result that leaves Hearts bottom of the league. Graham says Saturday was better in terms of organisation, and Benny being back was a big factor. But again, it's 7 straight defeats, and that's unacceptable with that squad. St Mirren game feels massive already, which is absolutely... can't argue with that at all. Craig, haven't watched it. What kind of just briefly before we get into certain details of it? How did come full time whistle? How did you feel about the game?
A bit. Well, kind of got what I was wanting and expected. Really, was a defeat, not too heavy, and we got some positive signs that we could still turn this around. I think maybe the disappointing thing was that we still didn't carry too much of a threat up front, but you can be in great form and be a really great side and go to Celtic Park and not create much. So that in and of itself maybe isn't a huge worry, but in the context of the season, it's another game where we haven't scored. It's 2 goals in 8 games, and so there's definitely worries from that side of things. But there, as a defensive display, we parked the bus and then another bus in front of that, but we defended well. It took a penalty to break us down, and then that second goal, as Naismith said, I'd written it myself by the time he said it. The game had really opened up at that point, and Hearts were pressing forward. It didn't look like a goal they would have conceded in the first half, let's say, because they just so many bodies in that area. So it's keep stopping myself from being so positive, because it is now 8 games without a win, but if we're looking at the international break as being a chance to reset, I think there was enough encouragement there I think we can go to St Mirren, play like that and get a result. Not play like that, but you know what I mean. Play to that standard and get a result. Maybe not. Maybe not play that defensively. But I do think that. I mean, it's obviously, to state the obvious, it's serious pressure time. Serious pressure time if he doesn't get the win next week.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come on to we'll discuss later in the week. We'll certainly discuss the St Mirren match in greater detail. But absolutely, it's huge. Just because you look at the fact that 8 games without a win, it is the worst 8-game spell to start our season in the club's history. The last time the club had such a poor return after the first 5 league games of the season was in 1900. So it really is a really bad start to the season. Add in the fact we scored 2 goals, and the last 4 league games, I think, certainly so. The last 3 league games, our expected goals has not been above 1, which is again another huge concern. So, Lonnie Shankland made reference to that after the match about the attack, which we'll come on to talk about shortly. But yeah, I came away with I thought there was a lot of positives, but at the same time, it was just overshadowed by the massive negative that the team are bottom of the league. But I suppose before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, we'll just get the penalty decisions out the way first. I thought the correct decision was made in both instances, but I can understand the frustration, especially when you look at. So we'll take the Penrice one first. The Hearts fans will understandably point to the Conor Barron incident with Jan Dand in the first game of the season when he crossed it. Having looked at the two I can see the difference where Penrice's hand is outstretched and away from his body, whereas Barron's is tucked in. I can see the difference, but it doesn't make it. It's frustrating nonetheless because it's gone against us in both instances.
Yeah, I think to compare the Scales one to the Penrice one's a bit of a red herring.
Yes.
But I can understand Naismith's just getting asked right at the end of the game without having looked back on it and having sat and thought about it. But yes, comparing it to the Barron one is definitely more apt. I'm still struggling to see. I can see the difference between the two, but I'm still struggling to see why one's a penalty and one's not. Because yes, Penrice's arm goes up just as the ball's kind of hit. But then he's trying to pull it away, and it's quite close to his body when it does hit it. Barron's arm comes up towards the ball as it's hit and punches it away, or forearms it away or whatever it is. I really don't see too much difference between the two, other than one arm is before the body and the other one's after the body. And one guy's raising his arm as the other guy's pulling his arm away. I do think that when you don't have a black and white rule, you're going to have instances like this. You're going to have some that look the same and one gets given and one doesn't. It's just when you have interpretation as part of the rules, this is just a reality of it. If it's not black and white, you're going to have grey areas, and then you're going to have instances like this. So yeah, I'm still. We've kind of been talking about it with some people earlier today, and I'm still not 100% sure what I kind of think about it all. But I'm struggling to see how the Barron one isn't and the Penrice one is. I still don't really see. Both arms are away from the body. Both are quite tucked in. Both are unintentional, and it just seems real. It just seems a really, regardless of what the rules are, it just seems really harsh to be punishing someone for an instinctive action or not really doing anything wrong. But I don't think the first one there's any argument. I think the right decision was made. The referee's seen a penalty. They've looked at it and it's not a penalty. I'd be pretty annoyed if that was given against Hearts. I believe it's been given because it's kind of higher up the arm or it's on the shoulder or something like that.
Yes.
But for me, even regardless, sorry, just to finish off, regardless, even without that bit, I still think Scales is unaware of where the ball is and is too close to where the ball is hit from for it to be a penalty, even if it does hit his arm. So I think it's inconsequential where it actually does hit his arm, but I know you can fill in the blanks on that. But
yeah, so this is a screen grab from the IFAB laws where you can see where the thing on the shirt. So again, it's in real time. It's difficult. It would be difficult for a referee to tell what was below the cuff and what's above it. And I can understand, having watched it back, why maybe Colin Stevens thought it was initially. Just because the only thing we say is Scales, his arms. If it did hit him further down the arm rather than kind of the shoulder bit, I can see why it would be given, just because it was just a daft place to have, your arm. But again, it's such close quarters. I always feel sympathy for when handballs are given when there's little space or the ball's been struck at speed, especially if it's not like everything that when it goes towards a goal, understandable. But when it's in areas that are not as dangerous, it's I can see this. I can have sympathy for ones that have been given against. But again, I think probably the biggest frustration, and Alexander Taylor makes reference to it. Unfortunately, I think ref got both decisions correct on the day. However, the Penrice one was very similar to the Conor Barron one versus Rangers, which wasn't given, and it just feeds into that feeling that all fans out with the Old Firm is that it was always going to benefit the Old Firm, as it has happened in the instances involving Hearts at the moment. But I'm sure we'll find out from the VAR review show in a mum's time, when everyone's forgotten about it, and
if there's room for it.
There's plenty of things to get stuck into there. Just in terms of we'll move on to the positive aspects of the performance. So I suppose the defensive side of things was probably the most positive in a collective sense, because we'll talk about individuals shortly. But I suppose the positive was the way the team competed, the spirited performance, and how they defined it was a positive.
Aye, as I was kind of alluding to earlier, just stopping Celtic from open play for the majority of the game, I think's quite an achievement. There were a few times when Kyogo got through, for instance, and uncharacteristically missed that 1v1, so we kind of rode our luck a wee bit there. But then the likes of Maeda was kept quiet. I'm hesitating to mention individuals here, but yeah,
yes,
Maeda was kept quiet. Kuhn had a few flashes, but again was sort of kept quiet for a lot of the game in the final third. And I just thought Hearts did a really good job of forcing Celtic inside, and then they had a flat three midfield in front of a back three. And they just crowd every time the ball came into that area. Celtic would try to work it through, and Hearts just had far too many bodies in there to get through. Kyogo, if you look at the passing networks on StatsBomb, just about every Celtic player has made enough passes with an opponent for there to be lines between them. Kyogo's just like a little island, didn't really get the service, which was something we said we had that Hearts had to do before the game, given Kyogo's start to the season and his record against Hearts. So yeah, there was things there to be positive about. Unfortunately, these kind of things that we're talking about aren't really going to be that valuable in the weeks to come. But still, if it brings confidence, then yeah, it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I felt largely comfortable for most aspects when it was 0-0. Felt largely comfortable that with Hearts' performance and how kind of keeping Celtic at arm's length, which is I think always a positive when you go to Celtic Park, especially the way that Celtic have been playing. They've been the number of goals they've been averaging. So I mean, there is positives to take from that. On the flip side, you just mentioned it. The negative, aside from going bottom of the league, aside from not winning again, aside from not scoring again, is just how little the team troubled Schmeichel. There's a couple of shots from long distance. Again, Shanklin talked about it in his press conference after the game, where he felt like it was just the way he was speaking. It was like him and Vargas against the world. Just the way the Hearts were set up, there was just such a big gap between that between the two buses, as you said, and then the two forwards, and it was difficult for Hearts to really get out, especially in the first half. And Naismith talked about it afterwards. He felt that the team weren't as good in possession as he wanted them to be. Story of the season, and there was only really one good chance created, and that was Musa, who, if he got a wee bit more on it, then would have likely equalised. But that was it. Again, it's. You're not expecting loads of chances and loads of big chances, especially at Celtic Park. But the fact that still struggling to break open teams and especially a team who aren't just sitting behind the ball is a massive frustration.
Aye, we seem to, for all the times we did win the ball in the first half, we seem to want to try and release Vargas early or find Shanklin, and it never got us up the pitch. I think half an hour into the game or something like that, we'd had 25% possession, no shots, no corners. Had a wee bit of life towards the end of the half. But yeah, for all we're praising the defending, that did come at the expense of us creating anything. And I don't know, this is more a question than anything else, but we created a few chances later on after we had made the subs by winning the ball higher up.
Yeah.
I just wonder whether Celtic were a wee bit more there for the taking earlier in the game, because that's how the Musa chance comes about, is that Spittle dispossesses Johnson and then puts that cross in from right. And I'm sure Hearts win the ball in Celtic's half just after that as well, maybe. So I don't know, maybe because Celtic, even at 1-0, Celtic weren't going to be happy. The fans wouldn't have let them just rest on that and take a 1-0 win. You could see that even when Schmeichel was getting the ball to stop one of our attacks, he was instantly looking to throw it and launch a counter-attack. So Celtic were pressing for that second goal. So I don't know. We showed... we sort of made them look a wee bit vulnerable a few times towards the end there. So I wonder, I don't know, if we could have been a wee bit more enterprising or maybe gone for it a bit earlier, or I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely. I think it did take probably left it too long to maybe start kind of poking the bear and seeing what could have happened if we maybe put pressure on Celtic a wee bit more. Especially Naismith talked about he heard the crowd turning, frustration, and if you're able to get at them a wee bit more, that frustration would have grown and grown. And who knows. In terms of performances, I thought there was a lot of positive individual performances. Again, unfortunately, most of them were kind of defensive. You alluded to it earlier on. Gerald Taylor, he's probably his best performance since his debut, his league debut against Rangers in this opening game of the season. Thought he was excellent against Maeda, and Maeda barely got a sniff.
Yeah, I don't wonder if you'll see Maeda dominated in an individual battle as much this season in Scotland, because Celtic fans were wanting a foul every time he tackled him, but that's because he was kind of on the edge, and he was using his like go-go gadget legs to like go round them and then like scoop the ball away from him. And I don't know, from some angles it maybe looked like a foul, but there was that one in the first half where it was one of the only times Maeda got in behind him and he recovered to put it out for a corner. And then there was another one in the second half when Maeda was dribbling away from up the left wing, and he just from behind just went in and kind of like stopped him turn. And by that point, Taylor was starting to do more of what he was doing against Rangers in that first game, put the ball round a player and run past them the other way, or like beat a man. And we were starting to get a bit of joy of it. But when we were getting the ball into the final third, we were running out of ideas, and we couldn't fashion a chance out of it. But again, he showed what he can do. If we can polish him up, he's going to be some player if he can do that kind of thing. So, but still, there was one or two moments where there was one point in the second half where he just passed it into nobody at the edge of his own box. So he's still got these moments in him. But if we can iron those kind of things out of him and we can hone what he's good at, then he's going to be a cracking player.
Yeah, I mean, you just analyse his two best performances, and it's when he was up against. I thought he was decent in Pilsen as well. But he was up against both Celtic and Rangers. He was up against a winger who's going on one battle, and he seemed to just relish that, and then it allowed him to burst forward. And then he struggled in games where like the games and like all the games in front of him, if like where the opposition are in front of him and there's probably more time on the ball. I don't subscribe to he's more of a. I think Saturday pretty much ended any doubt that there was that this thing where he was more of a fullback than a wing back. He plays wing back for Costa Rica, has done, and I think all these caps. So I always think he's capable as a wing back. I just think the game state maybe is it kind of depends on where Hearts have loads of the ball. I don't think he's the best on the ball, like you said. He just passed it in, whereas he's a bit more instinctive, and sometimes when he's running, he doesn't look like he has full control of the ball. But he causes a wee bit of chaos, causes a wee bit of havoc, and it's just refining aspects. And like you said, there could be a real quality player there. I think there is a real quality player there. On the flip side, someone who's more experienced is Craig Halkett. Again, I thought he was really solid. I thought James Penrice had another really solid game. penalty concession aside, had a brilliant block in the first half when Craig Gordon saved from Kyogo. And in terms of other starters, Benny Beningame, I thought he absolutely strolled. I've arguably said he was probably the one of, if not the best player on the pitch. Would you agree with those three, or was there any others who you would pick out?
I mean, I found it difficult to pick anybody out of the back three. I mentioned Kingsley most out of the three, but I think that's just because Celtic had targeted down our right side. I think they must have seen Taylor as a potential weakness, given recent performances. So I think they kind of and I felt like Kingsley was a bit busier than Rowles as a consequence, if not necessarily better, because there was an important intervention from Kingsley. One of the few times Maida did get a cutback in, I think it fell for Kuhn, and it was in the first half, and Kingsley drowned him out or blocked him. Yeah. So yeah, I found it difficult to pick between the back three. I thought they all did really well, and I thought the midfield three as a unit worked very well as well. I think you're right in that Benny was the standout of the three, just his ability to relieve pressure, be it through dropping the shoulder and going past somebody, or winning a foul, or finding somebody, or whatever it is. But I liked how they sat flat and shuttled across and helped out the fullbacks, and then blocked Celtic from coming through the middle. So yeah, I thought, I'm just kind of repeating myself now, but I should probably stop giving as much praise to Park and the Bus.
Yeah, I know. Because I just looking at John Thompson says that this might sound counterintuitive, but Hearts aren't a good attacking team. They do better when they face better quality teams. Is there a way they can adjust their plans to playing worse teams? And this is probably the thing that Naismith has struggled with most in his management career, is trying to be that protagonist, the team that has possession and breaks teams down. They tried to be that against Fleetwood, where they just played their own game, and I think it's maybe set them back or had pushed Naismith back. I would argue that the team probably could have done with playing a couple more pre-season friendlies to kind of get used to each other, to try and refine that a bit more, but they didn't, and here we are. So I'm no football coach, so I don't know what the best way to do it is, other than maybe just go just give St Mirren the ball, but when it comes on Saturday. But if you did that at like home, folk would go mental. So they do need to find a much better, much more stronger way of playing against teams that sit deep and be effective when we dominate the ball. I know Hearts fans in general probably don't want to watch a Hearts team that has 60% of the possession, but that's the way teams are setting up against them. So yeah, that's a big one for Naismith, and I think that's probably the key thing if he's going to kind of get out from under the pressure, is being able to find out how can he get Hearts to be able to do that. Graham says might be harsh, but I think Gordon needs to do better for the second goal. I'm glad you mentioned that, Graham, because I have got a screenshot, and I've got one here of Gordon for Luke McKinnon's goal.
This is what I was going to say before you brought it up. I wondered, I hadn't looked it back in detail, but after watching the game back today, I did wonder, seeing it then, whether he's unsighted, and that's why he dives down late for it. Is that being too? Am I being too charitable to Gordon there?
So yeah, that's when I saw the goal, I had a feeling that he'd been unsighted, and you see here where it's going to be a criticism of him, is that you look at for people just listening to the podcast, I've just got a screenshot of it from behind the goal, and it's just as Luke McCowan shoots, he's getting closed down by Cammy Devlin. Behind Cammy Devlin is Kai Rolls, and Luke McCowan uses Kai Rolls as almost like a guide to curl the ball round. Where I've paused it, just as Luke McCowan as a shot, as you can see, Gordon's weight is on his left side, and he's looking over. He's kind of looking through Rolls and Devlin. If he's got his weight on his right side, he sees that. He sees that, reacts, dives, and saves it. And saves it. I think he sees it cleaner. He can react quicker, and he dives. I don't know if it was just the way he shuffled across, but if you look at that situation, the only place that he's got to look is to his right and the big gap, and that's the only way. That's the only place Luke McCowan can score from. So yeah, I think it ends up in him reacting ends up reacting quite slow. I don't think he dives until the ball's in the it reaches the 6-yard box. He still gets a strong hand to it, and you can see by his reaction, I think he knows, or he feels he's a goalkeeper of such quality that he should have kept out.
Does the fact that before the freeze frame that you've got here, it comes from that side, is he maybe looking at the only place where he can see the ball at that point? Not where you've paused it, but just before that. Because I can't remember exactly what happens, but McCowan either shifts it or lets it run across his body.
Yes, so I think that's why his weight's on that side, because the ball has came from his left-hand side. So he's still looking at his left-hand side, and then it gets to McCowan, and McCowan shifts it quicker, moves it and shifts it quicker than Gordon can react. And then that's why he's having to go from his left side, his weight on his left side, to then shifting on his right side, reacting to the shot again. That's why. So there is reasoning for why Gordon to save it, but going by his reaction, he probably would have wanted to save it. So yeah, that's trying kind of the explanation behind that. I suppose the last thing we want to talk about as a game is Musa. I thought Blair Spittle did well when he came on as well on the left-hand side, but I thought Musa handled himself quite well. He maybe didn't have the physicality or use his body the same way that Vargas did against Cameron Carter-Vickers, but there was enough there to be encouraged by, I thought.
Yeah, so we've gone from not knowing anything about him and Naismith kind of saying he's not ready yet to seeing that there's a potential that he can play a part this season. Yes. I think there's definitely at least something there to take a chance on in a couple of matches. I don't think we'll be seeing him start a match anytime soon, but I do think we'll see a few more sub appearances over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, quick, quite rangy. Probably should do better with the chance that comes over, but again, he's there. He's getting on the end of it. He's showing a bit of promise. So in the absence of goals and a bit of pace and things like that up front, and with us clutching at straws, then hopefully he can add something over the next few weeks.
Yeah, definitely, especially end on a negative in terms of the personnel. I thought Shankland was. I can understand his frustration and I can understand how difficult it is for him, but I just thought just his all-round game just thought let him down. Some of his hold-up play, I thought it was moments where you expect him to get it in, hold it, release the pressure, link-up play just wasn't there on Saturday. But we're running out of time, so I will move on and trying to think what else was on the. Oh yeah, bottom of the table, worst year. We mentioned that bottom of the table, worst start ever. It's not good. We'll talk about that future later on in the week as we preview the St Mirren game and how big a game that is already this season. And we'll just finish on talking, bringing up Nathaniel Atkinson. He has left the club and rejoined Melbourne City, signing a 3-year deal. The Australian window is still open. Good move for everyone. I think it's just that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it's been on the cards for a wee while now, hasn't it? But yeah, how would you describe his time at Hearts overall?
What word would I use? Frustrating, maybe.
He showed a bit of promise for a wee while, sort of like a proper wing back. You could maybe forgo the lack of kind of strength and the sort of not being as good a defender if he was going to bring that kind of thing every week. But he never really kicked on, did he?
No, he had a couple of moments. He had a couple of moments during his Hearts career, especially at the start of last season. I thought it was really good at the start of last season. Then he got that injury at St Mirren and kind of just set him back. And never, because he held down the right back spot, and he seemed to get a new lease of life when Naismith came in following Robbie Nielsen. Kind of fell down the pecking order with Nielsen, and seemed to get a new lease of life. Started the season really well, but then just wasn't able to hold down that right back or right wing back slot after his injury. And we've seen with various players used in that position. Ended up like Stephen Kingsley at right back at the end of this season. I think Atkinson had a sub appearance at Celtic, and I remember him apologising for his performance on social media. I thought there was elements of him there. You can see real potential, quality. I thought he was good on the ball. I thought he carried the ball into the final third, but when he got into the final third, I thought maybe he was too one-footed. He would kind of drift in, and then he just wouldn't use his left foot or deliver with that. Technically quite good. I thought he was maybe a bit better defensively than people gave him credit for. But yeah, just too.
Oh, really?
Well, I'm not saying he was. Trying to think of a really good defensive right back. Not saying he was Philip Lamb, but I thought there was elements of his game defensively that he was decent. I thought he was on 1v1s. He was pretty strong, but overall, I just didn't think he showed the consistency to merit the right back's slot. And everyone, I think, would agree at the end of last season that Hearts had to upgrade in that spot. I know there was a wee bit of kind of revisionism around him, with Taylor struggling, and I know it didn't look good with Kingsley playing at right back, and then you've got Australian international on the outside. I'm not a massive fan of kind of casting aside players, or not banishing them, but not kind of moving them to the side. I just don't know how that affects squad dynamics. Kai Rose spoke about it when he was on international duty, and Atkinson is certainly a very popular member with certain members of the squad, and you just wonder how that fits dynamics. But again, I'm not the manager. That's just me. I probably would have not sure if I was in that situation I would do that. But with it decided that he was kind of moving on. For example, the Kingsley situation, I would have rather seen Adam Forrester, the B team right back, who's been excellent at the start of the season, to be brought in for that. But that's in the past. So I just think it's a good move for everyone, for Atkinson to move on and return to a place where he had success before. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Cool.
Aye.
Ideal. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Apologies we've gone on, but it was merited because of the news. So I had to speak about the game. We will be back later on this week to discuss something Hearts. No doubt also looking ahead to the St Mirren game. And we'll see what this week brings. But we'll hopefully have an exclusive interview with Peter Haring later this week on the site, probably a two-parter, and we'll hopefully try to bring some more news and information background on this potential deal with Tony Bloom and Hearts. So keep an eye on the site over the next few weeks. Once again, thank you very much, and have a good week, and we'll speak to you later on. Bye-bye.